Okay, we're going to get started this morning. Uh, I have with me this morning the Mayor Pro Tem, Dave Martin, um, who represents the Sagemont area on the southeast side. Uh, Council Member David Robinson, who is the Vice Chair of the Housing Committee. Councilmember Tiffany Thomas is the Chair. Councilmember Robinson is the Vice Chair, and highly familiar with it. Councilmember Mike Knox is present this morning. Good to see him. And, of course, Judson Robinson, who is over the Houston Area Urban League. And then Marie Flickinger, who lives and is a powerhouse down in that Sagemont area. Good to be with her this morning. We have Mary Fontenot, representing the Pleasantville area, and then also Miss Barbara Locke, who is with the Studewood. Where's Barbara?
Over here, Mayor. Be on the call, man.
Barbara, come and get us a bit closer. Is here. And then Billy Burge is also present, who is a longtime business person, strong supporter, and here also to provide encouragement to Marie, although Marie, she can stand on her own. Councilmember Tasha Jackson. Councilmember, why don't you come and get close in here, as well with District B. And look, and this is in reference to the Housing Repair and Reconstruction Program. It is now under the auspices of GLO, but it does not mean that the City of Houston do not continue to advocate on behalf of the people and the residents and homeowners who live inside the City of Houston. And we are highlighting three communities today. Pleasantville, the Studewood area, Sagemont, but in many ways they are examples of what's taking place across the city. We are here to talk about the disparities and how certain neighborhoods, especially neighborhoods in our city, are being treated by the Texas General Land Office through its Harvey Home Rebuilding Program. For example, Pleasantville is one of Houston's historic neighborhoods, and people living here take a great deal of pride in their homes, as well as residents in the Sagemont area, as Studewood as well. Pleasantville was established in 1948. Pleasantville is one of the first historically black neighborhoods in the country protected by deed restrictions. But over the past several months, many residents have raised concerns with the GLO about the rebuilding process, concerned about their desire to be treated with basic respect and fairness, and unfortunately, those concerns have been ignored by the GLO. In certain neighborhoods, like Pleasantville, like Sagemont, like Studewood, the GLO has repeatedly refused to rebuild the type of home for residents that they had before Harvey, despite the presence of deed restrictions or other requirements. For example, the GLO has refused to ensure families receive at least a 3-bedroom home if they owned at least a 3-bedroom home prior to Harvey. And I want to underscore that. If at the time of Harvey, in August of 2017, if residents, for example, had a 3-bedroom home and their home was seriously damaged or destroyed, what these persons, homeowners, are simply asking for is that they get that same 3-bedroom home after the fact. Prior to GLO taking over completely of this program, that is what the City of Houston was doing. We wanted to make sure that a person whose home was damaged or was 3 bedrooms, 4, that they got back what they had. Since then, however, people like Miss Lark in Studewood, who had a 3-bedroom home for years, and she can speak for herself and will, is being given a 2-bedroom home. And the same thing is happening in Sagemont. I don't think it's unreasonable to request that they get back at least what they had, because when they fail to do that, it diminishes the value of their home. And in return, it also diminishes the value of their community. And the reason provided by the GLO and Commissioner George Bush for downsizing seniors in neighborhoods like Cashmere Gardens, Acres Homes, Sunnyside, Sagemont, Pleasantville, and others, Studewood, is to save money. However, this same fiscal concern did not apply when the GLO upgraded a 4-bedroom home to a 7-bedroom home. When the city managed these funds, I authorized city funding to ensure equitable treatment of all Houstonians by rebuilding to a 3-bedroom standard or giving them back what they had. Now that the GLO wholly controls the rebuilding process, that same treatment is not extended to other similarly situated families. I'm asking that HUD and the other federal officials responsible for overseeing the GLO take note that this decision to downsize homes for mostly senior homeowners in many communities, many of them predominantly minority communities, is a decision that disproportionately impacts individuals protected under the Fair Housing Act. And in some cases, it's not just about reducing the number of bedrooms. It may be about building a home, but without garages attached that are called for by deed restrictions like in Pleasantville. Or it may be a situation, for example, where the homes are being downsized and then they're also being built on pier and beams, like in Barbara Locke's case. And it doesn't have to be that way. The requirement, you can build them higher, you can just raise the base, but they don't necessarily have to be put in pier and beams. In some cases, like I know in talking to Marie Flickinger, the homes are being rebuilt, but they don't even fit in to those homes that are currently on that street, in that neighborhood. So it totally kind of reconfigures how that community looks, and it changes the disposition of those communities. HUD has been absent for too long in this process in overseeing this program. After a hiatus of nearly 4 years, we are asking HUD to step up and properly oversee the GLO disaster recovery program so that Houston's most vulnerable citizens, our senior citizens and others, are not left behind, and so that protected classes under the Fair Housing Act are not disproportionately disadvantaged. In Pleasantville, a deed-restricted community, homes have always had garages and homes have always been built with slab on grade rather than being elevated on piers. This consistency in design is part of the glue that holds communities like Sagemont, like Studewood, like Pleasantville, and others together and add values to the home and value to the community. Judson Robinson, for example, has been a resident, grew up in Pleasantville. So he certainly firsthand can speak to the impact that these sort of changes will make on that community. Downgrading a home to eliminate garages and putting homes on piers is not what the first residents of Pleasantville and these other communities wanted in 1948. And I might add, when housing matters of this kind was rampant and before all Houstonians enjoyed the protections of the Fair Housing Act of 1968, changes started to occur. Downgrading a home to eliminate garages and putting homes on piers is not what the current residents of these communities desire, especially when George P. Bush and the GLO are providing garages and slab on grade homes to residents in other deed-restricted communities. And let's be clear, HUD does not prevent jurisdictions from building garages as long as they are physically attached to the home, and HUD does not prevent slab-on-grade homes as long as they are properly elevated above a base flood elevation. Because there is no HUD prohibition, GLO cannot blame HUD for the bad decisions made by the GLO under their management. And one of the residents standing with me today, Ms. Barbara Johnson Lark, received a letter from the Texas General Land Office stating that if she withdrew from the program because of the GLO's refusal to provide a garage and build on grade, that she would not be eligible to receive further assistance and not be allowed to reactivate her application. And that's one of the reasons why this press conference is being held, because Ms. Lark, for example, is being told that if you don't sign and allow us to downgrade your home and put it on pier and beams, and quite frankly, it doesn't even fall in line with the other homes on her street, that you're out of the program. Even though the city is not overseeing this program, the city does not abandon Miss Barbara Lark. We are still here for her, and she should not have to battle or fight GLO alone. And when I talked to her on the phone over a week ago, I could tell that she was under a great deal of stress. She wanted her home rebuilt, but she did not want a home that was less than what she had. And so we're standing with her. The same thing with Marie Flickinger. We were out at a vaccination program, and Marie approached me in terms of residents out in Sagemont, and similar things were happening there. Those residents should not feel as though they have to battle it alone. And then with respect to Mary and Fontenot and the other residents, with respect to what they are being told and the conditions that have been in place, doesn't mean that they should be advocating by themselves. And so these scenarios are being played out all across our city. All these residents deserve better. These neighborhoods deserve better. They deserve to be treated equally and with respect. Their concerns should be heard by the GLO and by HUD. And these residents are not asking for the moon. In fact, they simply want what the original residents of Pleasantville, Studewood, Sagemont want: fair treatment by the state and federal officials as it relates to their homes and the communities where they live. Lastly, if you will allow me to make this editorial comment, when the city had this program, people were very critical. But what I will say, we were rebuilding people's homes back to the way they were. We weren't reducing their value or diminishing their neighborhoods. So we're all in this together, and it's important for us to work together on behalf of these individuals. Now, let me yield now, and let me first bring up Mary Fontenot.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor Turner, for calling this press conference to really bring to light what's happening in our communities and our communities of color. Thank you, Judson Robinson with the Houston Area Urban League, with helping to bring this story to a head, which is where it needed to be. Can you imagine owning a home for 30 or 40 years? Life happens. You need to have your home rebuilt. But then the GLO comes in, or an entity comes in, and they say, guess what? We're going to reduce the size of your home. We're going to give you a home. We're going to reduce the size, give you substantially less square footage. You had a 3-bedroom, you're going to get a 2-bedroom. Then you start thinking about, what about the equity that I had in my home? What happens to that? I think you guys can figure out what happens to it, right? Can you imagine having your home rebuilt? It's demolished now. But because you're going to the GLO and you're saying, wait a minute, what about my garage? What about the 3-bedroom or all of these things that I thought I'd have? And they're saying, guess what? If you back out, we're going to sue you. We're going to sue you. The general contractors are going to sue you. And you're repeatedly getting letters from them saying, we're going to sue you if you don't let us move forward right now, if you don't go against, in our case, your deed restrictions. I didn't think that an entity could come in, that being the state, the GLO, or whomever, and systematically take apart the fabric of a community's deed restrictions. You're ripping apart our community, and the best you can come up with is, but we don't have to. You're not an HOA. They seem to forget that in our case, our deed restrictions run with the land. And then their only response is, well, we're self-appointing ourselves to decide what is acceptable in your community. Can you imagine having a home built on pier and beam, and for an entire day from 7 until after 10 p.m., pounding is happening because they're doing a pile driving technique to put pier and beam on a lot. But get this, they don't even care about the damage that they've done to the homes surrounding it, which is why the city of Houston doesn't even encourage that. So because of what the GLO has been forcing upon so many communities, and in our case in Pleasantville, we have several residents that have had sewer damages to their home, foundation damage, structural damage. And the best they can say is, yeah, but you signed a contract and we still want to build it, because we can't. So we need you guys to help us get this word out to stop what they're doing. It's not right. Think about it. It might be in your neighborhood tomorrow. So we've got to stop it and do the right thing. And that's all we're asking. So
Ms. Barbara Lark.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to speak as being a concerned senior citizen. Most senior citizens, like myself, throughout life have always tried to up our grade of living and our homes for our neighborhood and our families. So when I got into GLOW, I got in to get my home repaired. I felt it was very demeaning for them to tell me I couldn't have my 3-bedroom home. I only could get 2. And yes, I don't have children that I have dependent upon, but I'm a grandmother and a great-grandmother. And most people know when you have what? Family's always there. So I need my space. And the other reason was I didn't want to continue was it's going to be demeaning to my neighborhood. I would feel very bad if my neighbor had a house like that next to me. And not only that, I didn't tell the mayor also, it's going to be an incomplete house. When they put this house on those beams, it's not going to be closed in, which means you can get, animals up under your house. They're not going to put a skirt on it. In the driveway, if your house sits back, the driveway is not going to come all the way to the house. They're not going to replace the grass completely. You only get like 2 pallets of grass. Not only that, the amount of money they allow you to have for living expense, storage, it does not exceed the $6,000, which means if you're there longer, you have to pay for your storage. You have to pay for your food. And you have to pay for be moved out and put back in. So if I estimate it, and I'm not a great mathematician, but if I'm looking at $6,000 to $8,000 just to do that, to get a lesser house, I could put that in my house that I have and try to fix it up. So the whole thing was very demeaning as a person. So I thank you for your time for letting me explain what I went through with GLOW. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Lark. Ms. Lark is in the Studewood area. Marie Flickerton in the Sagemont area.
First of all, I want to thank the mayor and the city council for bringing attention to this. My house was not flooded, but I own the local newspaper in the community there. We've got about 25 subdivisions. We've been told that we've got 127 homes out there. We cannot even find out which subdivisions they're in. Our experience has been that GLO really doesn't seem to know what they're doing on this. One good example is they sent a letter to Mayor Pro Tem Dave Martin saying that they'd been trying since December to work with Sagemont subdivision. They have never, ever gotten in touch with Sagemont subdivision HOA Civic Club, basically. And yet they're bad-mouthing them, saying they won't work with them. They sent a letter initially to Sage Meadow that was for the entire group, and we know we have many, many subdivisions out there, and they don't seem to know which is which. When I asked them particularly about the 2-bedroom house for somebody that had about an 1,800 square foot house, they said that, well, because the regulations say they should build it in the similar footprint. What they told me the footprint meant was that if it was initially on the front of the lot, it would stay on the front of the lot. If it was on the back of the lot, it would stay in the back of the lot. If you look up the definition for footprint, it has nothing to do with that. It has more to do with similar size and shape. They told us they could not build garages, yet in Edgebrook we see where they built garages. They told us they couldn't do brick, yet in Scarsdale, which is not too far from us, they've got brick. They don't seem to really know what they're doing. One person from GLO doesn't know what the other one's doing. We've been trying to get meetings with GLO. They had told us initially they were going to meet with us. Then they basically sent us a letter that just really was in poor taste, saying we didn't know what we were talking about and they weren't going to meet with us. How strange, though, when they got word about the mayor's press conference today, they called us Friday and they want to meet. Okay? I hope the media will put good attention on this because people throughout Harris County and Houston are really suffering for this, and we need your help.
And let me just say, the only thing that we're asking is that just restore people's home back to the way they were and operate with the same consistency. That's the only request. You know, if they had a 3-bedroom home, restore their 3-bedroom home. If they had the garage, restore the garage to their home. Don't decrease their value and therefore decrease the value of people in the neighborhood. That's the only ask. And we're good. But I think it would be unfair just to allow these individuals to deal with GLO by themselves without any support. So nobody's trying to be adversarial contentious. You know, just give them back what they had. And if there are people who qualify for more, okay, fine. But don't take what they had and give them less. And then just destroy the whole makeup and look of their neighborhood. Justin Robinson from the Urban League. And I also want to recognize Europa Harris representing Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. I know she had to catch a plane and go back this morning. Thanks, Europa. Justin.
Thank you, Mayor. Kind of here in a dual capacity today as president of the Urban League, of course, one of our major programs is fair and affordable housing, making sure that people know what their rights are, what their opportunities are, and to ensure that the opportunity to build wealth is established. Your home is the most valuable thing that most people own, and especially for people of color or people of moderate means. This is the tool, this is the vehicle that allows them to pass on wealth to the next generation. I'm here today with my first cousin and my aunt, Ms. Fontenot. We played together as children in Pleasantville. We saw the value of family. We experienced that. We have fond memories of a neighborhood that worked, and it can work again. But if you take away the tenets of what it takes to have a successful neighborhood, you suck the value out of it. You diminish the property. You create an environment that does not encourage families to move into it again. Then you're doing a disservice to the community. And tax dollars should not be used in a manner that creates disservice. So I want to thank the leaders that are up here today who are standing up for all the rest of us to ensure that right is right, and when we get a chance to avoid wrong, we do it, Mayor. Thank you for your leadership in this. Thank you, council members, and all the leaders that are here. This is all of us that are being impacted. Thank you, Mayor.
I also want to acknowledge Erica McCrutchen, who is the president of the Kirkwood Civic Club. So as you can see, these are a number of neighborhoods that are involved. They are part of this request. And again, the request is very direct and very simple. If a person had a 3-bedroom home at the time of Harvey return, you don't have to put the homes on pier and beam. You can just simply raise the base and achieve and mitigate the risk of flooding. If there was a garage with those homes, rebuild the garage. If there was brick, just have the consistency. And then visit with the individuals, the homeowners, work with them. And then at the same time, don't say to Ms. Lark, as well as others, especially to our seniors, either you move forward with this contract or you're out of the program at all, and your home will not be repaired. Don't do that because that doesn't work. And I think if these things occur, then we can all move forward. And then people don't have to go through the additional stress. That's the request. That's why we're here today, and I believe that's why the city council members and others who are here saying, just work with these homeowners and the people in these respective communities. Having said that, that's it. Any questions come in?
I just want to remind everybody, if you have a question about this program first, please use the microphone. One here, or yeah, there's something about this one on the stage.
Hey, Mayor, I'm Derek Lewis with the Black News Channel. If you just had to guess, what would you say is a reason for the state going into certain neighborhoods, giving them what their home was worth, and then going into certain neighborhoods of color and not giving them what their home is worth?
You know, I can't speak to that. The only thing I can't speak to it. It doesn't make any logical sense. It doesn't make any logical sense. These people are not asking for more than what they had. They simply want their homes rebuilt. And so I can't get into their heads to determine why they're doing it. The only thing that I would ask is that for persons like these individuals who are here, like Ms. Lark and others, if they had that 3-bedroom before, please restore their home. Otherwise, what ends up happening is that you reduce her value, okay? And then you also reduce the value of the communities in where these homes are located. But I'll leave the motivation to them. I'm simply asking for them to work with them in a constructive fashion.
And then one last question. Could you elaborate on the long-term impact that this could have of having a house now that's less than the house was worth before Hurricane Harvey?
Well, essentially, you're going to decrease the value in those communities, in those neighborhoods. When you take a home that's 3-bedroom and reduce it down to 2, or it's 4 and reduce it even further, you are diminishing. You are lowering their value. When you lower the value of these individual homes, you are therefore lowering the values in these neighborhoods. Okay, you're reducing their investment. Recognize that home, for most people, represents their largest asset. Okay, well, the storm already hit them once. You know, government shouldn't have to hit them twice. Okay, and so that's what I'm saying. They've already gone through the trauma once. When I'm talking to some of these homeowners, I mean, they are stressed out because they don't know what to do. Okay, if we don't sign the contract, or we sign the contract because we felt we had no choice, so if we don't sign, we're out, and our home doesn't get repaired. And then it seems as though individually they're fighting against this big entity out here. So they don't know what to do. And that's the motivation for this press conference, to let these homeowners, these neighborhoods know they're still residents of the city of Houston. And council members and others, people like myself, we still have a responsibility to them. And so we can advocate on their behalf. And that's what we are doing today. Okay. Any other questions?
Aswad Walker with the Defender Network.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Is there any way for the city to regain control over this process, or has that ship already sailed?
I think that ship has already, what's the word for it? It's already sailed. That ship has already sailed. But it's not just GLO, it's also HUD. HUD has a responsibility here as well to exercise oversight over GLO. And the public and the media and everybody else has a responsibility. But it needs to be highlighted. And that's what we are attempting to do today, is to highlight it on their behalf. Okay. Now, it would be sad indeed, for example, if, let's say, the program is now being operated by GLO and the city of Houston in terms of the representative, if we just move on. and just say it's not. What sort of response when I was talking with Marie was talking to me, and Ms. Locke was talking to me, Barbara was talking to me, and I simply said the city no longer has any responsibility. I'm sorry, can I do anything for you? That's not a response. Okay.
Do we have time to hear from Mary Fontenot?
Sure.
Is it okay if I ask her a question?
Sure, it's fine to know.
Yes.
Can you speak to the historic nature of Pleasantville and why this particular issue is so egregious?
Yeah, Pleasantville is the first master plan community created for middle-income Black Americans, one of the first in the entire nation. A community that was a conglomerate between, or a gathering between, Mr. Silverman and Judson Robinson Sr. So it's very special, very historic. Historic places are just, they tell us our future, our past, right? They prepare us for how we should move forward in the future. It's interesting, when that was brought up to the GLO, since you brought it up, I said, hey, we're recognized by the state of Texas. The GLO said, we don't have to consider that. And then I said, hey, you know, at the urging of the mayor and of Mr. Robinson, hey, we're establishing ourselves as a historical district. We only need to consider it. You know, the importance of preserving communities of color, which is a national movement, is very, very important. I think when you start looking back at the history of prominent African-American communities nationwide, read a few articles on the underground communities that were prominent, flourishing Black communities. That entities came in and they just wiped them out. Well, we don't want to be wiped out, and we shouldn't have to be. Our history is America's history, and it's important, and it must be preserved, whether it's in Pleasantville or Independence Heights or South Park or wherever it might be. It must be preserved and respected. You know, I don't know if that answered your question, but thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me thank. Okay, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Charlie Zong with the Houston Chronicle. I wonder if you could speak a little bit to how the effects of denying the individual homeowners, as well as the GLO denying Houston Harris County federal relief for flood improvements, how these two decisions combine to have an impact.
Well, the cumulative impact is huge. Because, for example, if the home repair and home reconstruction dollars are not used to at least restore people's homes, okay, the homes that they had at the time of the storm, and then, of course, on the HUD mitigation dollars, that $4.3 billion, where the city of Houston has received zero, then not only are you diminishing the value of these homeowners' home and diminishing their neighborhood, but now we're getting $0 of the HUD mid dollars. You're not putting the city in the best position to even protect the reduced value from future floods. So it's a compound effect. It's one after the other. Okay, so the damage of Harvey continues. But now it's not the storm. It's GLO. Okay? So again, the request is simple. It's not intended to be contentious. Work with these neighborhoods. Work with these homeowners. Restore the value that they had. Okay? And not bring their homes value down, their communities down. Don't do that. Okay? Thank you all so very, very much.